Welcome to this edition of Inside the Isles. It's Aidan Northcott here with you as always. Hope you're enjoying an incredibly beautiful day here on Prince Edward Island. It is obscenely hot right now. Perfect day to be at the beach. Hope if you're watching this, you're doing it on your deck. Maybe having a Tuesday nightcap. I'm not sure. But just hope you're enjoying this unreal weather because it's just the start of an unreal PEI summer. My guest today really doesn't need much of an introduction if you're a Charlottetown Islanders fan. Only mostly because he's played more games than any other Islander in team history. He's seen it all, he's done it all. If you talk about Charlottetown Islanders team history, you can't talk about it without this guy. My guest today, obviously, none other than Keith Getson. Keith, thanks for taking the time on this unreal day.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Is it as nice over in Halifax right now?
It's pretty humid here, but I mean it's a pretty nice day, pretty nice out. So it's nice to be out. Yeah.
So I asked the same question to every person when I started out. Where have you spent your isolation or social distancing time for the most part, and what's been your go-to isolation outfit?
Basically just been hanging out in my apartment, going for lots of walks with my dog Rocky and my girlfriend and stuff like that. But I'd say probably my isolation outfit would probably just be a pair of shorts and a comfy t-shirt or something.
I would certainly hope right now, if I had said that back in March, fair, I'd have given you fair points if you said sweats. But these days, no, it's got better be shorts
No,
and
no,
t-shirt.
definitely have to be shorts right now.
So next question: how's the golf game?
It's getting better. It's getting better. I mean, at the start of the year, it's always kind of tough getting your swing into it and stuff like that. But I mean, now after a couple rounds of practicing and getting out and stuff like that, it's coming around.
I can guarantee you it's better than mine because as much as I love playing golf, I'm not good at it.
Even though you live in PEI, eh?
Oh, I live in PEI. I get out, try and get out as much as I can, but the game will just it'll never come along. I was at my wife, her uncle has a cottage down in Brudenell River, and was
Yeah.
down there all weekend, and basically just had an old bucket of balls and was shooting them into the river, and that was like my practice time. I was just trying to get them in a straight line, but anytime with the driver, just kind of veers off to the right a little bit
Oh
there.
yeah, that happens to everybody.
Well, Keith, again, thanks for taking the time. As I mentioned off the top, you've played more games in a Charlottetown Islanders uniform than any other player. But I want to talk about the time first off that you first put the jersey on for the Islanders at the draft. You were drafted in the third round. What was it like to be drafted to a maritime team and drafted to the Islanders?
It was incredible. I mean, just the experience at the draft. I remember it was in Sherbrooke and stuff like that, and I didn't really know going in where I was going. I didn't really have an idea. So um, just kind of going through that whole experience and even just seeing how professional Charlottetown was and the organization was at the draft, I knew after that day that I was going to be in good hands, hopefully for a while.
So you mentioned professionalism, and that is almost the perfect segue to my next comment about your experience at the draft.
Yeah.
One George Matthews, I will throw out a name here.
Oh yeah.
I
I know exactly what you're going to say.
So obviously when I do these interviews, I always ask the same question. Tell me a good story, ask
Yeah.
around, get some stories. And the one that obviously came up every time was the draft. And it had to do with George Matthews. So for those who don't know, maybe give some background on that story.
So basically, I'm drafted and everything like that. I have my jersey on, whatever. Put my jersey on, get pictures with Gordy, get pictures with Grant, Balmer. I get pictures with Mitchell, everything like that. And then they take me upstairs to start talking to. I can't remember what happened first, but it was either talking to Kev or Spide or something like that, and then talk to George and get interviewed and stuff like that. And when I get up and sit down in the chair next to George, he's giving me all these questions about like being a goaltender and stuff like that. And I'm sitting there and I'm like I'm shy. I'm a 16-year-old. Like I'm nervous as hell, and I'm just answering these questions. Like, what am I going to say? And I just answered them.
And I know that's the best part. Everyone says like he went probably 3-4 minutes without before he
Oh,
finally told George that he wasn't a
oh
goalie.
yeah, probably 3, 4 good. Yeah, definitely.
Poor Georgie. I'm sure if he's watching this, he's just like reliving that moment and just like hanging his head in shame. But we love George. He's a
Good
fantastic.
story to tell, though. Good story to remember.
Oh, fantastic story and a good sport by you as well. Just kind of roll with the punches. But eventually, I'm sure he gets to one. You're just like, I can't even. No, I'm not a goal. Like, I think because we were talking, because again, when asking the story about the question, everyone, I think I even said, it's like, how does it even happen? I'm pretty sure it was like you were picked, and then I think we picked right after, like 10 picks
It was like there was a goalie picked either right before me or
Yeah.
right after me. It was one of the two, and obviously, like you don't know everybody that's going to be drafted, so it's not even really his mistake either. Like that's kind of a tough position to be in. So.
Oh, and having been at a draft where you have a lot going on at once, like
Oh, it's pretty thick there. Yeah.
It's a big deal. I remember like in Quebec last year, we had the three ninth round picks, and then we had obviously one in the 10th and one in the 8th, and it was just like things were going well, and then all of a sudden after the 8th hits, it's just like boom, 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 boom. There's like five new people like up in our suite area with everybody trying to get interviews, and I'm like, who am I even talking to right now? It's good. So obviously that was the kind of your introduction into being a Charlottetown Islander, was being mistaken for a goalie, but you make the team out of
Everything was good after that, though.
Everything was kosher. Everyone figured out who you were. Everyone figured out who you were pretty quickly. You made the team out of training camp as a 16-year-old. Not many people do that out of, especially being like a third round pick. That's something typically reserved for guys who are first round picks, early second round picks. But your hard work and dedication, you make it. What was that first season like, especially coming on to what was, by all accounts, a young kind of rebuilding team?
Yeah, we were young at that time, but I remember like I had Balmus there to help me out. I had Gilbo as two other 16-year-olds to kind of just be the same age and just be able to hang out with those guys and stuff like that. And I remember Spronger was also there, and even vets like Coop and Ryan McKinnon and Cam Kiley, Ross Johnson, those guys, like they were unbelievable vets. And just to be able to kind of, there wasn't really any rookie stuff. Like everybody was treated equally. And just to come into a situation like that and have like Ryan McKinnon and Ross and those leaders and Coop and everything, it was just, like I said, professionalism. They kind of just put that into us right away.
You guys really did have a group of like the typical Islanders names. Like when you hear, when you talk about the Charlottetown Islanders, you typically the same names come up over and over in different names. Like obviously right now, like your name will still come up. P.O.'s name comes up. Lucas's name comes up right now. Lucas Cormier. But like when you think about the early years, the names obviously that come up, Sprong and Schlappick. But then, like you said, Ross Johnston, Ryan McKinnon, Oliver Cooper, Jake Kugler. Yeah. You guys really did have a strong presence of like veteran leaders on that roster.
Yeah, I mean, I think they kind of they don't necessarily get forgotten about, but they don't get talked about that much just because they were in that first year and they got traded there, so they were only there for 1 year. So I think they kind of get overlooked a little bit, but they did a huge job leading to like our younger group and all that kind of stuff, and getting us to those 2-3 years or 4 years that we went on playoff runs.
One name that you mentioned right off the top was Mitchell Balmus, a guy that you obviously were good friends with coming into the queue. Talk about your relationship with him a little bit and about how important it was to have a guy that you were not only just friends with, but a guy at your age level coming in.
It helped a lot, just especially coming in, and because I didn't know really anything about, like I played over here in the Spud and stuff like that, but I didn't know anybody over here really. I didn't know anybody on the team, and just being able to know somebody going into training camp, it was just positive right off the bat, and I was able to be comfortable and stuff like that. So him coming to SMU and everything too, it made that transition a lot better as well.
That's right. He's playing with you at St. Mary's. It kind of seems like you guys are following a lot of the same trajectory, and you're going to get another one of those guys next year when Matthew Welsh comes along.
Yeah, we're excited for Welsh to come along. He's definitely going to help us along the pipes. I'm pretty excited for that.
Was there a rumor? Now, I might be spilling secrets here, but I heard a rumor that when the number sheet went around, before Matt had even committed, like 73 was off the board.
Well, there was so I don't know if this is true either. I think it's true, but I'm not sure. So this year there was a presentation at center ice at SMU, and it was like the president of like the sports that came up to drop the puck or whatever, and he had a 73 jersey on. So it's like, that's probably Welsh's jersey. I'm assuming that's Welsh's jersey. Like, they already have his jersey ready.
That's amazing. Was it a big baggy thing?
Oh yeah, it just didn't have the name on the back, but it's ready for him.
Definitely Welsh's jersey.
Oh,
That's so funny.
yeah.
So we talked about kind of smooth sailing as an Islander and the way that things went for you. Again, one of the stories that I heard, and this might have been like a little bit before my time of like going to the rink regularly here in Charlottetown, but they said the person said like they distinctly remember you becoming an instant fan favorite for a game, and they didn't say they didn't even say which game it was, but they said all they remember is you were on the PK and you had like 5 block shots in a row. Do you remember that moment?
Yeah, I think it was pretty early in the year, and I didn't really have like I was new to the league, I was new to the team, everything. I was just trying to find like my personal identity and stuff like that. And obviously that's how I kind of like started my way up in Charlottetown, was to be a PK guy, like a PK specialist kind of thing. So yeah, at that point I just wanted to get myself in the lineup regularly and be a guy that they can rely on PKs and hopefully every situation. Obviously I wasn't putting the puck in the net as much at that point, but yeah, I pretty much just trying to get in front of every shot possible just so they could trust me.
And I mean, like that's shown through not just in your 16-year-old season, but like you were a major part of like the penalty kill and special teams almost every season you were in Charlottetown. What was that like to be able to be relied on that heavily?
Well, it was just kind of it was a thing I took pride in, just being able to know that the coach can trust in you to go out and like win a big face off or something, or block a big shot. It's just one of those things that might not end up on the score sheet every night, but those things your teammates like that just as much as scoring goals sometimes. So just to block a big shot or get a big face off or something, that's a huge pride thing for me.
So let's talk about your season in St. Mary's. We quickly alluded to it, how you committed to St. Mary's at the end of your season. Now playing last season, I should say, under their legendary Trevor Steinberg. What was it like to move into such such a well-regarded university program like that?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, everybody was familiar with Steiny because he was there for what, I don't know, it was like 22 years or something. So he had the team molded to a certain identity and everything like that, and it was nice just to come in and like Steiny doesn't screw around. You come in, you know what you have to do for him. He's going to tell you. He's not going to beat around the bush or anything. So it's nice to play for guys like that you come in and you know your role right away and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a great experience for my first year.
Excellent. So we talked about how you were playing with Mitchell Balmas, but he's not the only former Islander on that team. We're talking about guys like Sam King, oh my God, I'm blank, Eric Brassard, a number of guys. We often joke over here when it comes to the St. Mary's Huskies that it's almost like the St. Mary's Islanders at the same time.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
So let's talk about let's go back to your time with the Islanders and talk about the season that everyone talks about. Talk about 17-18. Like you were really one of the leaders on that team, a young leader. You were an 18-year-old guy leading a team that didn't have many expectations. How did it feel to take on that, to go from being a younger player on that 16-17 team to an older role player on that 17-18 season?
Yeah, I mean, just throughout my first couple of years, like I mentioned earlier, I had great leaders like Ryan McKinnon and Ross and all those kind of guys, and Coop. So I got really lucky, honestly. I was blessed to have good leaders all the way up and learn a lot from them and take kind of pieces along the way and just kind of use those, put them all together and use those into my own leadership style. But yeah, just watching our team play in that, what was it? It was 16-17 year, the one that we had like Spronger and stuff like that, I think.
Yeah, 16, 17 was
Yeah,
the
that
lineup.
year we were like really skilled, basically relied on being skilled and scoring goals. So just seeing that, and the next year was kind of the complete opposite. It was like vice versa. We relied on good goaltending, good defense, chipping in offensively whenever we could. Like it was just a complete opposite. But being the underdog that whole year and everybody pretty much counting us out was what fueled us.
No doubt. Like that was always the word that I heard from everybody. Like anytime I asked someone about that 17-18 season, whether it was PO or Hunter on earlier episodes here, or
Yeah.
Matt Welsh and other interviews, like guys who were there, like they all said the same thing. Like we were counted out. Like nobody
Oh, all year.
from day one. I just think that I'll never forget. I remember reading the hockey news, and I think you guys were ranked 17th or 18th, and I was just like,
Yeah.
Roll your eyes at it. But I mean,
Yeah.
it was, it was just, I remember like seeing that, and that was like the word that everyone used, like the underdog, like, proving people wrong. And obviously that happened. One other story that I had a good laugh at when it was told was, less of a story, but more of a kind of like an anecdotal thing. So for those who remember, you wore the number 13 for your first couple seasons, and you
Yeah.
wanted to switch to 16. How'd
Yeah.
that conversation with Spider go?
So I think I texted him over. I think I texted him over the summer, maybe. It's kind of blurry. I don't remember it that much, but I remember texting him because I wore 16 all the way up. And I know at first, I don't think anybody wore 16 like my first year in PEI. I think it was just because Ben Duffy played, obviously. And like,
Yeah.
you don't know what you're going to do with that jersey number. Like, he was nasty. So, um, yeah, I just texted Spide and I was like, do you mind if I switch my number to 16? And I don't think it took very long for him to answer. And he said, yeah, but pretty much everything with Spide and Kev and everything is they'll do anything for you. So,
Well, it was funny because again, he was one of the guys I texted, and like
yeah.
I said, what do you got for stories? And he was like, I will never forget talking to him about switching to 16. He
Yeah.
said, because your big shoes, like you were the first guy since Ben Duffy, and even before him, like David Laliberte. Like you're talking about the only 50 goal scorer in Rocket history, and then
Yeah.
follow that up with the guy who played more games, scored more points than any other player in that team history. Like they're
Yeah.
huge, huge shoes to fill. But I think it's safe to say, with the amount of games you played and the amount of heart and soul you put into the game, that you more than lived up to that and filled in the shoes.
Yeah, I hope so. I definitely don't think I have as much skill. I didn't put the puck in that as much, but I mean, I hope that I worked hard enough to gain people's respect.
I would certainly hope so. I know we definitely before you were traded to Halifax, which we won't talk too much about. Um, we talked. We're like, well, geez, what do we do? Like, I mean, he would be the first 5-year guy in team history. Like, do we honor the number? And then the first thing that always came up was like, well, how do you honor the number without talking about Duffy or without talking about Aliberte? I'm like,
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
so I will actually, on the Halifax note, I want to talk about the one thing that I think kind of cements and like everyone just is synonymous with your time in Halifax, and that's the highlight. talk about the Memorial Cup hit.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of biased because I'm the one that like got hit, obviously.
Right.
So we're both going back, and it obviously by the video, like it looks like I get the brunt of it. Like it looks like I get the worst end, but honestly, like I think just the way we went in together, I think both of us kind of collided the same way. It's just I kind of flew. I just took off.
My favorite is like looking at people who watch, like who are watching the video, and they're like, "Oh, like the Getson took the brunt of that." I'm like, I think it was just an even 50-50. Like there was no.
Yeah. Just the way that my edges like came off the ice, I don't even know what happened. Like I just went flying, I guess.
That's like I remember, and personally I remember texting you like the next morning, being like,
Yeah.
"So what's up, Barstool Sports? What's up, like million views on Sportsnet?"
I don't mind going famous, but I guess if I'm the one taking the brunt of the hit and everybody's commenting like, "Oh, this guy's getting smashed," like
I think it was the way you went into like The other guy just kind of crumpled into the boards. Like, you were just like smack against it. Like, it literally looked like something out of a cartoon.
I know. I was lucky that I came down on him because I think he got that pretty bad too.
I would say so. So one thing I've been doing with a few of the guys is doing like kind of like some name association. So I'll throw out a name and I'll get you to recount a story or like a funny memory or something about that player from your time playing here in Charlottetown.
Okay.
So the first name I'll go with is Philip Schlepik.
Philip Schlepik. Oh, I mean, Phil. I don't know if there's an actual story, but I just remember Phil. He would like he's like the typical European kind of. So like he's completely okay with like he's not shy whatsoever. So anytime you would like be going into his hotel room or anything like that, his bathroom door would all be open. Like if he's going to use the bathroom, it's always open. Like it's always.
That's amazing. All right, so next name I'll throw out there is Cam Kiley.
Cam Kiley. Well, I remember me and Cam, we played together. We used to, I mean, definitely pro lines comes to mind. Getting some pro lines together. We were heavy into the pro line, so yeah, that definitely reminds me of
that. Matthew Welsh.
Welshie. Honestly, when I think of Welshie, I just think of a guy that's just going to be like sitting on the beach all day tan. That's what I think of Welshie.
I saw he posted an Instagram story the other day of him and Abby just sitting on Citadel Hill. I'm like, yeah, just that goes hand in hand. I feel like.
Yeah. Well, his cottage is like right at a beach down close to like where I grew up. So.
Oh, okay. Down on the South Shore then.
Yeah.
Right on. Next name is P.O. Joseph.
P.O.
Yeah.
With P.O., I would definitely say like the horror movies and all the movies on the road and stuff like that. We were roommates, so I mean, he was definitely he was probably one of my best buddies when I was in PEI, and we had a lot of good memories together. But we watched countless horror movies on the road, probably everyone you could ever imagine. But yeah, that's what reminds me of him.
What's your favorite horror movie?
The Conjuring ones are pretty good.
Yeah.
They're pretty good. It's hard to beat The Conjuring, yeah.
All right, next one is Mitchell Balmas.
Mitchell Balmas. Balmer, eh? He was a while ago. He was at like early when I was in Charlottetown.
Yeah, that would have been like 16, 17, part of your 18-year-old season.
Yeah, I just remember me and Balmer because we would always like my first billet when I was in Charlottetown were Dave and Kate Trainer.
Yeah.
So we lived over in Stratford and stuff, and me and Balmer used to, and I think Spronger too, because they all lived in Stratford, and we'd get picked up for school every morning by Dexter Weber, and we would always ask Dexter, like every morning we'd say, like, can we stop at Tim's, please? Like we want like a coffee or like a hot chocolate or something this morning. And he's just like, no, never. Like, and like the Tim Hortons to the right when you get off the bridge coming off Stratford.
Yep.
Going into like downtown or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a Tim Hortons right there, like on the way to school, and we were like, can you please stop? And you would never stop.
Yeah. All right, and then the last name I'll throw out is Pascal Lacan.
Pascal Lacan. Pask. He's a good guy, man. I love Pask. Can't really remember like a memory though of him. Like I just remember him being like a good line mate.
Yeah.
Like as soon as he got there, like we pretty much played together until he left.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I don't remember a time when like you and Pascal were on the same line together.
Oh, the time that he was there, the time that we were together there, I don't think I played with anybody else, especially when it was like me, Grouchy, and Pask.
Yeah.
There was like we didn't really play with anybody else. It was just us.
I feel like that line was so important early on in the 17-18 season because like we talked about the transition from 16-17, where it was a big powerhouse all in team, to essentially losing almost the top six
Yeah.
completely. Like, Sprong, Schlepik, Boschman, Dostie, like all those guys were gone, and then like you guys became the de facto line. And I feel like um, having that consistency of like Getson, Grouchy, and Ake right there from day one was like, it was so important for you guys' success.
Yeah, and that's yeah, definitely. It's so funny because like we were the line being relied on and stuff like that year, but
Yeah.
the year before we were kind of relied on, like I said, like scoring and all that, and it kind of completely reversed. But that's like a heads up to like the coaching staff and stuff like that for being able to put those combinations together and actually get us to mesh and stuff.
So speaking on the coaches, any fun memories on working with Jim, Guy, and Brad?
Well, I don't know. They just mesh so well together. That's a
Yeah.
like as soon as they came in, it's just like they knew the team. Like it was so weird. I don't know. They just work so well together, and just kind of the respect you get from that coaching staff. Like they're so approachable, and
Right.
you can walk into any of their offices anytime. And yeah, they're really approachable, like really good people. So it's nice to play for people like that.
That's amazing. Well, Keith, approaching the end of the time here, I really appreciate everything coming on, and really appreciate having you here. Thanks so much, and enjoy the rest of your summer.
Awesome. Thanks, man. You too.
Not a problem. That was Keith Getson, everybody. Really appreciate you all joining me on this, again, beautiful Tuesday night. Stick around, stay tuned. We'll have another guest for you next week. Thanks for watching.